Hello. Okay, Speak No Evil, a psychological horror directed by a James Watkins, and it's a remake of a 2022 Danish movie of the same name. A movie that I've never watched before. I'm definitely going to be checking it out after watching this version. I actually only just found out recently, a couple of weeks ago to be honest with you, that this was actually a remake. And so I purposely avoided sort of reading up on that original movie when it comes to the plot, and even watching it, like, I've been very tempted to check it out, but I thought, no, I kind of want to go into this remake blind. I don't really, because I think when it comes to remakes, your perception or your vision or how it is you look at that particular movie will always be tainted by what's come before. And for this experience, for this particular remake, having only just found out actually that it was a remake, I thought, do you know what? I'm going to experience this movie without knowing anything about that original and just see how I actually feel without constantly comparing it to what's come before, which from what I've read, it's a very highly thought of movie, that original movie, which I'm really looking forward to checking out, especially after watching this version. So the plot follows an American family who get invited to stay on a remote farmhouse by a British couple for the weekend. But the family soon learns that their hosts are hiding something very sinister from them. So, Speak No Evil, for me, was a very tension-filled, suspenseful, nerve-wracking thrill ride. And the driving force behind this experience, behind this very sinister, tension-filled experience, is the performance of James McAvoy as this unhinged character, which he does a very good job at bringing these type of characters to life in a way that's very convincing.
Don't worry. I'll talk to him.
But it's just through how he handles the character, through these kind of very nuanced expressions. There might be a moment where he's sitting around a table with these new friends that he's made, and they'll be discussing something, and it'll just be the way in which he's looking, and it'll be very briefly at certain characters, and just how he sort of smirks, and just sort of, like I said, it's very nuanced in how he expresses himself in these moments. But it also sort of it puts you on edge, and whenever he's on the screen, I just couldn't take my eyes off him. He's incredible at bringing this very sinister, unhinged character to life. And the performances from all of the cast are really strong here. They all sort of help and aid in sort of creating this very sinister atmosphere throughout the film, throughout the story. You've got Mackenzie Davis and Scoot McNairy as this married couple who are invited by McAvoy's character to this farmhouse in Devon, and they just do a really good job at not only selling the horror, but also where this married couple are at life as well, without saying too much. And sort of that sort of leads me into the writing. I felt like the script was very tight and very clever. It was almost as if it was very conscious of not spoon-feeding you too much and just sort of allowing you, the viewer, to sort of really dissect and decipher a lot of what's happening and what's going on with these characters emotionally, mentally, yourself, without sort of just really kind of blurting it out to you. These characters' stories are told not purely based on what they say, but through their performances. Their performances are allowed in many ways to tell the story of where these characters are at in life. And I really appreciated that aspect of this story and how within this film. You also get glimpses into James McAvoy's character, Paddy, and so it gives you enough sort of glimpses into his past to sort of get an understanding or a bearing of what's going through this character's mind mentally and emotionally, but it doesn't give you too much. It's allowing you to kind of really dissect the character yourself, and that again is what I really liked about the writing within this movie. But it's also aided then by how McAvoy brings the character to life. Like, it's just how he brought this character to life kind of really made me feel uncomfortable whenever he was on the screen, in a good way, because it was his performance performance. It's through his performance that was evoking the right emotions from me as someone who's witnessing this horror unfold. For example, there are many moments or scenes within this movie that were very uncomfortable to sit through, for the right reasons, for good reasons, and that being one of the moments. It's in all the trailers. It's a scene where they're in the field, they're having food, and you've got the two children doing this kind of dance, and he gets very agitated. McAvoy's character gets very agitated with his son during this moment, and it's through the writing, through how this scene is set up, and McAvoy's incredible performance that kind of really makes this moment incredibly uncomfortable to watch or to sit through, and just kind of really sort of adds to the tension within the movie, and sort of these emotions that you start to feel as you start to sort of unpeel sort of these characters and what it is they're going through emotionally, mentally. One way I could sum this experience up is almost like a thrill ride, like a roller coaster itself. And it's like you'll get these moments where they kind of do a really good job at building up the tension and the suspense, and then as you go over the edge, you'll get a moment then where these characters, for example, like McAvoy's character and his partner, they will say things and do things from a psychological perspective that kind of alleviate that tension slightly and sort of come back down to earth a little bit. And you can sort of almost breathe a little bit along with these characters that are going through this horror. And it does a good job at sort of putting you through those motions. It's like it did feel like an actual roller coaster ride. And it's all done again through the writing and sort of through the decisions and through certain things these characters would say to alleviate that horror. But then you've also got this kind of undercurrent of humour running throughout the story as well that also alleviates that tension and horror, which I felt like it needed. And then that leads me into one of my major issues with this movie, and it's more focused within the third act. Now, don't get me wrong, this was a tension-filled, suspenseful thrill ride, and I had a really good time with it. But there was something about how this story was told that I felt like, for me personally, was stopping it from being, or reaching its true potential, you could say, with what it was they were doing with sort of the psychological horror aspect of the story. There was this kind of restraint there, I felt, especially with the third act. It at times was a little too predictable with how it was going to play out within that third act, and it ends up having this kind of genericness about it. Something like we've all seen before, and if it wasn't for such a strong first and second act, then I really think this movie might not have as worked as well. Another way of explaining it maybe is they weren't as explicit with the horror within its themes as they could have been, and it just ended up feeling perhaps a little bit too sanitized. I was still having a good time, but there was a part of me thinking, I feel like we've been here before. But then there's a moment that we get within the third act. It's within the very kind of final moments of this movie, and I'm going to be as vague as possible here because this is spoiler free, but it involves the child or the son of McAvoy's character. First of all, this boy, this young actor who's playing this character, he is incredible. I mean, for a child actor, he soaked the pain and the emotion and sort of what this particular character was going through. But there's a moment with this character in the final few moments of the movie, and all I will say about this particular moment is it was almost like an explosion of moments where everything that you'd kind of been feeling throughout the movie in regards to that tension building up just explodes in this one moment, and I just found myself being quite emotionally affected in regard. I kind of teared up a little bit because it was literally just you didn't kind of realize how much of or certain elements or aspects of these characters' stories were building up within you until this very last moment. And I just thought it was a moment that kind of really saved the experience in many ways, because I do feel like the movie falters a little bit during the third act. In fact, and again, I'm going to be as vague as I can here because this is a spoiler-free review, but it's in the final moments of this movie with certain characters and sort of witnessing what these characters do and go through emotionally, and with how the camera sort of focuses in on certain characters within the last final moments. It's these moments that really stay with you. Well, it did for me anyway, long after coming out to this movie, coming from this screening. And it's these moments that kind of really just stuck with me in my mind, because it's those moments, and there's very brief moments within the final kind of minutes of the movie that kind of highlight the true horror of what these characters have gone through and the consequences from what these characters have had to go through, and sort of what the horrors that they've had to sort of endure. And I feel like it's in those last few minutes that is kind of really highlighted in a way that emotionally affected me. So it's like the film kind of almost derails for me in many ways, due to the fact that I felt like it was perhaps not being as intense or sort of tiptoeing around those kind of darker, sinister themes that it is exploring, and sort of that kind of genericness that I'm referring to in terms of kind of, you know, we've been here before, we've seen it, and they're kind of playing it a little bit too safe, and then it's in these final moments, it was saved for me. So it's not a perfect experience, it wasn't a perfect movie, but it evokes all the right emotions that it needed to. I had a really good time with this film. I came out of it and I was like, whoa, that was intense. Yet I still had kind of issues. More so, I say the issues for me lay primarily within the third act. I think that's when the movie really started to falter for me. But the ride up until that third act, it is incredibly intense. It's very suspenseful, it's uncomfortable, it's nerve-wracking, and I felt like they were quite clever in how they structured this thrill ride in terms of from using the kind of the psychological aspect of the characters in a way to kind of create that thrill ride. I just thought it was very well done. So yeah, they're my thoughts on Speak No Evil, and I will be giving Speak No Evil a 7.5 out of 10. So yeah, they are my thoughts on Speak No Evil, but what did you guys think? It's been out now, it was released this weekend. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Do you agree or disagree with anything I've said? Then please let me know in the comments below, and let's get a discussion going. And if you've reached this far into the video, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And if you want to watch future movie reviews and just some random Welsh geek rambling on, then please hit the subscribe button. It will mean an awful lot to me. My next movie review will be for Transformers 1, and I'm also hoping to get a review up, a game review up for RoboCop Rogue City. Now it's been released for a while, but I've only recently started playing it, and I'm really enjoying the game. It's the latest from Teon, who also did the Terminator Resistance game that I absolutely adored. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to sharing with you all my thoughts on RoboCop Rogue City. I'm coming towards the end now of the story, so once I've completed it, that will be my next game review. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Thanks to everyone that have subscribed and connected to the channel over the last few weeks, months and years. It means an awful lot. And yeah, enough rambling on from me. I'll be catching you guys soon.